Welcome everyone to the Canarian International Meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Mossy. I am an alcoholic serving as your secretary today. Could you join me for a moment's silence to remember the still suffering alcoholic both inside and outside the rooms? And Sally is going to read the preamble for us.
Hi, my name's Sally, and I'm a very grateful recovered alcoholic. So the original version of the current preamble, as it was first introduced to AA in the June 1947 grapevine. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is an honest and desire to stop drinking. AA has no dues or fees. It is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation, or institution. It does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety.
Thank you, Sally. And a welcome to any newcomers that have joined us today. And at that, guys, our speaker today has flown in a huge expense from the States. And our speaker today is Susan Triple D or Triple D Susan, whatever you want to call her. She can explain that herself. Our timer today is Sabina. You won't be timed, Susan, but the speakers after you will be given 3 minutes. So there you go, Susan. The floor is all yours. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Mossy. I'm Susan, and I'm an alcoholic. And how much time do I
have? Well, about 45 minutes.
35?
45. 45.
45. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I thought you told me. Okay, so let's get it out of the way. Double D or Triple D stands for double digit dame. And there's a story behind that, and I'm not going to waste time. Just let you know that some old guy told me when I was about 20 years sober, honey, you're just an old broad with double-digit sobriety. And I brought that to Zoom World, and one of the guys from UK said, not an old broad, you're a double-digit dame. And I realized that the term dame in the UK is a woman of integrity and grace and one who is honored. So I took on that pseudonym of Triple D. So some of you all know me as Triple D, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful that in spite of my selfishness and self-centeredness and my fears over the years, that the grace of God has been present to interfere in any thought that a glass of wine won't hurt. I'm just very grateful for that. I'm going to just jump right into here. My sobriety date is December 20th, 1977. I have 2 home groups. I vote in one. I have a Zoom group, Language of the Heart, meets 10 a.m. Monday through Saturday. And it comes from Brunswick, Georgia, USA. And my home group, Face to Face, is also in Brunswick, and it's the Today group, and it meets Monday through Saturday. So it's a lot of fun trying to get to both of those meetings on the same day, but we do manage, but not all the time, just on occasion. I have a sponsor, but I don't call her my sponsor. I call her my partner. There are times when I call her and I ask her to put on her sponsor hat, and I, share with her the things that are on my heart. And there are times when she calls me and I put on my sponsor hat. And then there are times that we get together and we're just 2 women sharing our experience, strength, and hope with one another, and sharing what's going on in our families. In no order whatsoever. I'm a wife, I'm a mother, a grandmother, and a great-grandmother. I'm a sister, an aunt, and a great aunt. those are some of the roles that I play in the drama of my life. And I come from a small town in Western Pennsylvania, where I was the youngest daughter of 4. And my father worked very hard at providing a living for us. And as such, he had a moving company, and he had trucks that had our name, Kelly, plastered all over the trucks. So you would see these trucks all through this little small town, and we were known as the Kelly girls. And my sisters provided me with an example of what it was like, what one should be like as a graceful, upstanding young lady in this small town. Unfortunately, or fortunately, I was a little rebellious. So I had to be very careful in my activities so that I didn't tarnish the good name that my sisters and my parents tried to portray in this small town. I grew up in the 1950s and the 1960s. My sisters were all in the 1950s. They all graduated in the mid to late 50s. I didn't graduate until 1964. So I always say that I was caught between 2 lifestyles. The beatnik lifestyle and the hippie lifestyle. And as such, I kind of missed the drug scene that was happening on either end of those spectrums. I did not indulge in what was going on in the world in the 1960s. I missed all that. My sisters gave me the example of you grow up, you work a little bit, you get married, and you have children, and you raise your children. I was a little different in that in the 1960s, a lot of the girls that I graduated with did not get married right away. They went off to college, they sought careers, and after establishing themselves in their careers, then they got married and may have had children. Not me. I got married at the age of 18. I had my first child at 19. And I moved from that small town to the big city of Baltimore, Maryland, where I became a typical big city wife and mother. I had many opportunities to I'm going to back up a little bit, and I'm just going to say, God, please direct my thoughts and my thinking right now. When I was still in that small town and I was a small child, I was introduced to God, and I had a real desire and a real passion to learn about God. And I accepted all of the rituals that my particular faith presented. And I received all of the direction and instruction. And I was very on fire for God until puberty hit. And then the boys became a little bit more important to me than seeking more connection with the God. You know, the rituals were still there, but they meant nothing to me anymore. And you know, along with boys came rejection, resentment, and revenge, which produced guilt, shame, and remorse. And I mention that because guilt, shame, and remorse were very important in my drinking. And the rejection, resentment, and revenge also played a part. In my junior year, as far as drinking was concerned, I was drinking casually. But on New Year's Eve, I remember going to a party, feeling less than. And after a few drinks, I felt better than. I danced better. I was dressed better. And my personality somewhat changed. And by the end of the evening, I was indulging in behavior that was not ladylike at all, that produced the guilt, shame, and remorse. I had already experienced rejection from some boys that I had dated, and I turned it around. From that point on, any boy I dated, I rejected them before they rejected me. And the manner in which I sought revenge was to become promiscuous. I wanted to hurt them after they rejected me. And that is just a boomerang that came around and hurt me, again, producing guilt, shame, and remorse. In my senior year of high school, I experienced the first sign of an allergy to alcohol, in that it's poison. I drank vodka and orange juice. My system said, this is not what this is poison, and out it came. So, very early on, I experienced the physical allergy. I also began to experience at fraternity parties the physical compulsion. One drink wasn't enough. I had to drink the whole pint. I had to grab the bottle of gin and crack it open and drink it straight out of the bottle. Blackout happened. I didn't understand what was happening. All I know is that I woke up in my bed. I don't remember how I got there. And so what I'm establishing with you all here is I had the mental obsession and the physical compulsion, the blackouts, the change of personality, the low self-esteem, versus feeling better than, and then the guilt, shame, and remorse, the rejection, resentment, and revenge. Those are the factors that I have learned about myself in working the steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. What really saved me from experiencing a lot of the consequences that a lot of women experience as alcoholics is that I did get married at the age of 18, had a child very, very quickly, and became that typical city mother, wife, taking care of the baby. I wasn't much of a cook, but I tried my best. And that was in the late 60s. That was in the mid to late 60s. By 1969, I had 3 children. We had moved from Baltimore to Philadelphia. My husband was in a company that often promoted him. And I was using pills to get me through the day and alcohol at night. I can't say that it was daily. Other than I came to the point where I realized that the pills would probably take me down, and I began and I made a decision to give up the pills. Now I was suffering from postpartum depression as well as depression from the guilt, shame, and remorse of my former life. I could not get rid of that guilt, shame, and remorse. It swirled around in my head almost every night. So I spent one night in a sanitarium. That's what they called them in those days. I learned later that my husband had been asked to sign papers for shock treatment, and he refused. I know that on my own volition, I called him and said, "Get me out of here. I don't want to be here." And so I kind of came back from that depression. What also helped was during that period of time, we moved one more time. We moved to Pittsburgh. And so now I was back close to family and friends. What I experienced and what I remember about living in Pittsburgh was I was making whiskey sours for my husband to come home at night. I couldn't wait for him to get home at night. The kids were in bed. And so that was the ritual, whiskey sours at night. I experienced a blackout. So again, that was in the 1970s. And the remarkable thing that happened to me in November 1st, 1971, is that I had a spiritual experience in a Greek Orthodox church. And as a result of that spiritual experience, it reawakened that passion that I had for God. And I began to search and seek God's presence in my life. And there were several things that I knew that God would change or take out of my life. And one of them was alcohol. And so that was in 1971. My sobriety date is 1977. It took 6 years for me to be at the right place at the right time, to hear the right message that brought me into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. I can tell you during those 6 years, I tried to stop. I would quit drinking for a period of time, but I never lost what we call that lurking notion deep inside that I would drink again. I had reservations, as we call them. And so I had this it was like I was two different personalities. I would be Susie Saint in with my Christian friends, and then I would be the flirtatious wife of the person who was, at his company functions. We had moved from Pittsburgh to Baltimore, from Baltimore to upstate to New York, and we moved one more time from upstate New York in 1976. We moved to Baltimore, and I became very involved in a women's Christian fellowship. And again, I got myself together. Life was okay. If you looked at our lives, everything seemed to be put together. The kids, were dressed, they were fed, they were driven to school, they had their activities, the house was clean. I was dressed, I was, and basically what I'm saying to you is that I was not a daily drunk. I was a typical suburban housewife who drank on occasion. And once she drank, she couldn't guarantee how much she was going to drink, and she couldn't guarantee what she was going to say and do. And so I had two fears. One fear was that one of my Christian friends would see me drunk and know that I didn't have the joy of Jesus in me. And the other was that we would be at a company function and I would drink too much and become very flirtatious and embarrass my husband and cause him to be embarrassed in front of his company people. And those two things happened the same night. I'll never forget the restaurant. I'll never forget standing in the parking lot and praying, "Dear God, please don't let me get drunk tonight." I didn't know that we were supposed to pray, "Dear God, please don't let me pick up the first drink." And so, God doesn't stand in the way of somebody who walks into the restaurant and orders scotch and water from the bar while you wait for your table and then drinks, sangria at the table. And before I knew it, I was being flirtatious with my husband's boss, and I knew I was in trouble. So I got up and I went to the restroom. I walked into the restroom and there was my Christian prayer partner. And my first thought was, she's not going to know you're drunk. And my second thought was, oh, yes, she will. And what was interesting is that I had asked to borrow her luggage to go on a trip. And this was a company trip. We left New York on a chartered plane that had an open bar. And I knew better than to pick up that first drink. And so I did not drink while we were on the trip. What I did do was once we got to Hawaii, we got our stash in the room and I began to drink at the beach bar in the morning. I would drink back in my room. I would drink before we got to dinner. I would drink on the way to dinner. I would drink at dinner. I would drink at the disco. And at night, coming home, I would fix that last scotch and water and ice and put it back bedside and wake up a couple hours later, thirsty, and I would pick it up and I would take a slug of it. What I'm establishing here for you all is the picture that I became a daily drinker for the first time in my life. And I believe that that vacation happened in December, early December. Had I not gotten sober on December 20th, I would have become that typical suburban drunken housewife, mother, who was hiding her booze, passed out on the couch, going to different liquor stores, trying to hide my booze, being sent to all of the different hospitals, rest homes. Treatment centers weren't in vogue yet. My husband would have done anything to cover it. But what happened was I returned that luggage to my friend and I let her know that even though she had prayed for me, that, it hadn't worked. Her prayers that God would give me freedom from alcohol, it didn't work, that I had been drinking the entire trip. And I got back in the car, and on the way home, I heard the message that opened the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous to me. I heard a man say, "Hi, I'm Hal H. I'm a born again, spirit filled Christian, and I'm an alcoholic, and I go to Alcoholics Anonymous." And at this point in my story, I always say, "Now listen, y'all. Some of you, if you had heard that same message, might say, well, if I have to be a born again, spirit filled Christian to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm not going to go." But that's the message that I needed to hear, because I had God in my life, and God and me, I was expecting God to get me clean and sober. I didn't need Alcoholics Anonymous. And so when I got that guy on the phone and I asked him if it was okay to be a Christian and to go to Alcoholics Anonymous, he said to me, "Honey, do you have a problem with alcohol?" And I said, "Yes." And the tears started. The guilt, the shame, the remorse that I had been carrying for years and years lifted. To this day, I can still feel it lifted off my shoulders as if an angel came down and said, "You don't need to carry that anymore." He put me in touch with a woman who showed me honesty. She shared with me what it was like, what happened, and how her life was different as a result of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she took me to my first meeting. And I remember standing in the back of the room saying, "God, why AA?" And you know what? Until this very day, I've made a mistake, and I've always said at this point in my story, I've always said that this is what I heard. When I asked God, why AA, I heard the preamble, and what I heard in the preamble was, we are a fellowship. We. I heard the word we. And you know what? When you all read the preamble today, it doesn't say we at all. I had to open my grapevine and verify that it does not say we. It says Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people, men and women, who share their experience, strength, and hope. So for 46 years, I've had it in my head that I heard the word we as an answer to my question to God, why AA? But I also know that I heard the steps read. And the first word of the first steps is we admitted that we were powerless. And so what I'm sharing with you is that I had been trying to get sober and stay sober on my own with God, and it wasn't working. I was in church and it wasn't working. I went to all kinds of services and it didn't work. But I knew the minute I was on the phone with that person, with Hal, I knew that I was going to get sober and stay sober in Alcoholics Anonymous. And I wanted to know from God, why AA? And it was because of you all. We share our experience. You were going to share your experiences with me, that no matter what kind of a day you had, good or bad, you didn't pick up a drink. I just received a book in the mail. It's Stories from the AA Grapevine. It's I think it's a new one. No matter what. Dealing with adversity and sobriety. And it's stories from the grapevine over the years of people who have stayed sober in the midst of a variety of different difficult times. And so I got to my first meeting I was convinced from the very first. I bought a hook, line, and sinker. I was all in, and I served from the very beginning. I learned very quickly how important it was to help with the chairs and help with the ashtrays and get the cakes for the birthdays and hold the key and open the door and be the first person there and be the last person out the door. I learned how to be available to other women and to make connections with people, to develop a fellowship that has sustained me over the years. So let's see. So I've established what it was like, what happened, the miracle, and the real miracle of that radio message was, I learned years later, Hal went to the radio station to do a half-hour program on alcoholism. And they got there and they said, sorry, Hal, we don't have a half hour. And he said, what do you have? And they said, we've got 2 minutes. And he said, I'm going to take those 2 minutes and we'll see what God's going to do with them. Now, I just happened to be in the car during those 2 minutes. I happened to hear Hal share that message that opened the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous to me. So, we just never know where we're going to be and what we're going to say that's going to influence someone. I heard a story at one of our meetings the other day where a guy had been, he heard the message in a very unique manner. It's not my story to tell, but when he told the story, I thought, that person said to him, you might have a problem with alcohol. She may have planted the seed, she may have been watering the seed, but she was one person that indicated to this man that maybe he might have a problem with alcohol. And my husband's story is like that. He had several people over months talking to him about his drinking. So we just never know when we're going to say the right thing that's going to make a difference. I want to stress one thing. I don't know how much time I have left. So what it was like, what happened, what it's like now, as a recovered alcoholic in Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm matching calamity with serenity. I'm dealing with adversity, staying sober, relying totally on the God of my understanding and you all. I'm relying on each and every one of you. Many of you know my circumstances. Many of you are praying for us. It's vitally important to me that I maintain my connections with people. And I'm so grateful for Zoom. That was another thing that we did when COVID hit was my husband and I I came up with the idea of having a Zoom meeting. And we serve that group in a variety of different ways. But what I want to stress now is this idea about God. Because for the longest time, when I first came into AA, my attitude was either you're going to come to believe the way I believe or you're going to get drunk. And after several years of being in AA and listening to people, I realized that people had different concepts of a God other than my Christian God. And as a result, I had to back off of my uh, my actions in that, you know, I felt it was vitally important that I let you know who my higher power was. And today, and for the longest time, I have allowed you all to develop the concept of God in the manner in which it works for you. And in the meantime, what has happened to me is my concept of this higher power, which was, I had blinders on. I had a very narrow vision of God. And over the years, through different opportunities to be exposed to different teachers who have brought the message of freedom and hope and peace, quietness, the importance of learning how to be present through listening to different teachers. I have let go of old ideas, I guess is what I'm saying. I've let go of old ideas because they weren't broad enough for what I needed. So my idea of God has developed beyond the beliefs of my childhood and of my early sobriety. I use page 55, a particular paragraph, as my guide. And it says, and we finally saw that faith in some kind of God was a part of our makeup, just as much as the feeling we have for a friend. Sometimes we had to search fearlessly, but he was there. He was as much a fact as we were. We found the great reality, and that's capitalized, deep down within us. In the last analysis, it is only there that he may be found, and it was so with us. And so one day, after near an anniversary, I was like, what is this power? What is this power that has kept me from picking up a drink for X number of years, 40 plus years? What is this power? And I remembered that paragraph. And so I've become aware and awakened of the great reality that resides deep within me. And I trust that that same great reality resides deep within each and every one of you. You may say, you may see it differently, but it doesn't matter. It has no form, it has no shape, it has no, it's just, it's this power that is enabling me to live life free from the mental obsession and that would lead to picking up that first drink that would set off the physical compulsion. So it is because I believe of that great reality residing within each one of us that I have now started to say, may you be at peace this day, for all is well. In spite of insanity and chaos and calamity and insanity happening around us, all is well. And I end by saying namaste, which is my way of saying I am honoring that great reality within me, and I am honoring that great reality within you, and I desire for unity among us. I don't know if there's anything else that I really want to say other than, well, how much time do I have left?
It's up to you, Susan.
I will some of you already know, after years of praying for my son, who is one of us, expecting, to get that phone call in the middle of the night informing me that there's been a tragedy. He has come down with cancer, and that was never on my radar. And so for the last 2 years, I have been standing beside him, walking this path. It's an unknown path to me and to him. And I have been able to face this adversity with fortitude and faith. I heard that. Where did I hear that? Somewhere. I want to face it with fortitude and faith. And I want to be gracious, and yet I want you all to know how important it is that you know that I need your love and support. I walked into a face-to-face meeting the other morning at 7 a.m. and I was sitting there by myself because everybody comes in late. And I started weeping, and I cried almost the entire meeting. And all I can say is that my body needed to express the tension, the fears, the unknowns, our bodies, whether we want to admit it or not, take a toll on circumstances that are so demanding. And my body was saying, we need to let some of this go. And I was loved and supported in the meeting, and I got up, and the rest of the day unfolded, and I was fine. And I just want to appreciate, I just want to express my gratitude to Mossy and the Canarian International Group for being present when I wake up in the middle of the night and you are here, and I'm able to just sit by and listen to you and be supported by you. And with that, may you all be at peace, for all is well. Namaste. Thank you for letting me share.
Thank you so much, Susan. I loved your chair, as you know that anyway. Do you like my hat? No matter what, I don't pick up a drink. And that's what I come to learn in Alcoholics Anonymous. No matter what happens, you don't pick up a drink. You get to a meeting and you do the best you can on a daily basis. And Alcoholics Anonymous has changed everything for me, I'm sitting beside my favorite daughter here. And she's 92 days sober. She's 3 months sober actually today. And she climbed the reek today And I'm just so fucking proud of her. And the way you spoke has brought up all my emotions again, so I'm finding it struggle to speak. But I thank you. It's people like you that had the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous open for me. I didn't believe in this Zoom lark because I knew Zoom didn't work on it. I never even tried it. But yet it's changed. This meeting has changed my whole outlook on everything, and I'm a long time sober. No, okay. Kathleen is going to read the promises that are up there if you want them. Okay.
Thank you. My name is Kathleen. I'm an alcoholic. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realise that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises?
We
think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialise if we work for them.
Thanks, Kathleen. And again, congratulations on your 3 months.
Thank
Well
you.
done. And climbing the reek.
Mhm.
That's it, guys. Just a reminder that this meeting is on 7 days a week at the same time. Actually, it's on 7 days a week. We open the meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. Meeting starts 8:30 to 9:30. We have a meeting every Sunday at 1 o'clock UK time. It's a step 11 meditation meeting. We have another meeting on Thursday evenings at 7:30 every Thursday. Susan, to all my co-hosts that helped me, thanks very much. Sabina, you got off light today. And thanks everyone. Susan, thank you so much. You're an absolute star, and you know I love you to bits. You're always in my thoughts and prayers. And so at that, Susan, we let you lead us out with the serenity prayer.
Sorry. God, grant us the
serenity.
Accept
Accept the things I cannot change. The urge is to change the things I can.
Wisdom
Wisdom to know the difference.
keep coming back.
Thank you. Works if you work it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Marcy.
Thank you.
everybody.
Thanks,